To North London and Damesh Eza, I should say, a wanted man by North London.
Certainly is. We brought you the news earlier on this week that Arsenal were exploring the conditions of a deal potentially for Gyokeres Eze. They continue to explore those conditions. He is now emerging, we think, as a big target for Arsenal in this transfer window, and we think that's independent of any of their other potential recruitment in the forward areas, be it a striker or a winger or a number 10. Now, I'm also told today that Gyokeres Eze would be open to a move to Arsenal. He's an ambitious footballer. He wants to play Champions League football. He's obviously an England international as well. We do know that Tottenham Hotspur have also been interested in Eze during this transfer window, but we think now that they are focusing on other targets for now. Right. And so Arsenal, I think, will look at Eze and think, do you know what, he could be perfect for the way we want to play.
Not cheap.
Of course he's not, and it's good that you've mentioned that because it is a release clause situation we've got here. So it's £60 million, we think, which could rise to £68 million. Now, it's easy for a club just to say, yes, we'll meet that release clause. And the selling club, in inverted commas, can't do much about that. But sometimes, even with a release clause, you can have a situation where a club wants to negotiate on that release clause, in which case, in this case, if Arsenal were to do that, they would have to approach Crystal Palace and say, I know the release clause is this much, but we would like to pay this much, and this is how we'd like to pay it. And that's not necessarily to pay less than the release clause, because the 16 plus 8 is something that would almost be guaranteed to Crystal Palace.
Right.
Whereas if Arsenal went in and said, actually, we'd be willing to pay 70 to 75 for argument's sake, and people would say, why would you want to pay more than the release clause? It could be in exchange for favourable payment terms. So it could be the case that the release clause, you need to pay in 3 instalments, for example. But if Arsenal say to Crystal Palace, well, actually, we want to pay you a bit more, but we'll do it in 4 instalments, because we know that everyone is looking at their financial fair play and their profit and sustainability rules, and they are done on a 3-year rolling basis. So, look, Arsenal might say, yes, here is the release clause money, we're willing to pay it. Let's discuss this with Gyokeres Eze and sort out the personal terms. We're quite a long way from that, admittedly, but it's clear that Gyokeres Eze is definitely a player of interest for Arsenal.
So many details to iron out before the deal actually goes on, isn't it? OK, we mentioned Chelsea's business just a moment ago, but one of their forwards is actually interesting Arsenal, Mark.
Yeah, so Damesh mentioned Gyokeres Eze as being probably the #1 target down that left-hand side, although they do have an extensive list of possible options. I'll just run you through them now because there are, well, I guess four possible options, really. Okay. We've spoken about one, the 3 others. They are ambitious. Nico Williams is obviously someone of interest. However, he's made it very clear that he wants to go to Barcelona. So the chances of him ending up in North London over the course of this summer, very, very slim. The other player, Rodrigo at Real Madrid, someone that's won everything, but comes with a very high price tag. We understand probably going to cost around 90 million to get Rodrigo out of Real Madrid over the course of this summer. The other one, which is definitely a possibility, Noni Madueke. He's become an England regular over the last 12 months or so, 23 years old. His name is under consideration by Mikel Arteta and Andrea Berta as someone potentially that could fill that left-hand void. He's a type of player that is versatile, which Mikel Arteta likes, and he can stretch defences as well. He's almost like a Bukayo Saka, but on the left-hand side, and he can just get into those pockets of space and drive with the ball and really take Arsenal up the pitch. Now, Chelsea don't want to sell. They don't need to sell. But, as Damesh mentioned at the top of the show, when Chelsea go and sign people like João Pedro, Liam Delap, and there's rumours about others, does that mean that they're just getting those players in first so they can start to allow a few out the back door later on? Generally, that's how an organised and structured club would work. They'd get their business done early, get the players in that they want, and then they'd go and try and explore the options to sell players. But Noni Madueke, definitely a player on Arsenal's radar and definitely one to keep an eye on.
Okay. I know Mark's mentioned all of these attacking players, and the one position that Arsenal will desperately want to fill.
What is it? Because I'm not sure what it is.
Of course, it is the striker, the number 9. The fans have been calling out for it for the last 2 or 3 transfer windows. I still expect Arsenal to go into the market and sign a striker in this transfer window. Yeah. They're still going for Eberiche Eze in the number 10 role, or maybe one of the wide positions, and a winger as well. So, like I mentioned before, the Eze deal, however early it is at the moment, their interest in him isn't instead of other attacking options that they might have. But it should be said here as well, Arsenal are quietly going about their business here still, because even though all of the talk...
They haven't done much, have they?
No, but even though all of the talk has been about a striker and are they going to bring a striker in, they've got other areas of the pitch that they wanted to strengthen. They thought, right, Neto's gone back to Bournemouth. He was on loan at Arsenal last season, the goalkeeper, so we need a number 2 goalkeeper. Sure. We need to bring in a central defender as well, and we want to bring in an out-and-out central defender, because we have got 3 central defenders at the club in Gabriel, in Saliba and in Kivior, but we have other players who can play at full-back and in the centre of defence as well, like the likes of Calafiori and Ben White. But maybe we want someone who is an out-and-out central defender. They've lost Jorginho and they've lost Thomas Partey, who they didn't agree a new contract with. So those 4 players, they were thinking, right, we need to replace those as well as what everyone wants us to do, which is bring in a striker.
It's a tough job for a new director of football, no?
But they're going about their work at the moment. Kepa has signed. That was announced yesterday. £5 million release clause from Chelsea. This is a goalkeeper who still holds the record as the most expensive goalkeeper at over £70 million. They got him for £5 million. Great competition for David Raya. Centre-back, they're still working on a deal for Christian Mosquera from Valencia. Valencia wanted him to sign a new contract, but once Arsenal's interest became very apparent, Mosquera was of the thinking, I actually want to go to Arsenal. He's only got a year left on his contract, and so Arsenal will probably think that they can do a good deal here, because the further down his contract runs, the market is going to be less favourable as far as Valencia are concerned with regard to the finances of that deal. So they're still working on that deal. There is a gap in valuation, but I think the direction of travel would suggest that they can meet somewhere whereby both clubs are happy. And I mentioned the Partey and the Jorginho departures. Martin Zubimendi, that one should be announced sooner rather than later. They've met the £51 million release clause. The personal terms have been agreed in principle. And Christian Norgard from Brentford, 31 years old, admittedly, but Thomas Partey's in his 30s as well. So they see him as a kind of a like-for-like replacement for Thomas Partey as well. So as much as people are saying, why are they not signing a striker? There are other areas of the pitch that they needed to strengthen, and they've gone about their business by doing that, and fully expect them to bring in 3 more attacking players. We're talking about Eze, we're talking about a left winger and the elusive striker.
Still plenty of time for Arsenal. 2 months to go until the window closes.
Mikel Arteta's squad is set to receive the reinforcements required to launch an even stronger Premier League title challenge, but hurdles remain around Victor Gyokeres' arrival from Sporting Lisbon. Arsenal's move for Victor Gyokeres appears to be back on track following various reports around clauses being activated and personal terms being agreed. Yet the biggest stumbling block of all remains, with Sporting Lisbon not yet showing signs that they will succumb to accepting a lower fee than his £100 million release clause. The wait goes on for Martin Zubimendi's move from Real Sociedad to be announced, while talk of an audacious move for Crystal Palace star Eberiche Eze is picking up. And that all means that only one summer transfer has so far been officially completed, with Chelsea goalkeeper Kepa Arrizabalaga arriving to compete with David Raya for the starting job. Here is the state of play at Arsenal as Mikel Arteta looks to strengthen his squad with just over a month to go before the Premier League's new season kicks off.